welcome everybody. My name is Nikki Lefebvre and I'm the Executive Director of the Natick Historical Society. We were founded in 1870, incorporated in 1873, and still today, 150 years later, we remain an independent nonprofit. We really thrive on the support of community members and generous donors, and we so appreciate the support that we receive from this community. So many thanks to all of you, and a silent round of applause to folks who are with us. So we've got a great meeting for you tonight, and I'm delighted to have with us Ginger McEachern, Denise Girardin, and Jane Ellen Newman, each in different positions, and I'll let them introduce themselves later. But first, I just wanted to note that this program is part of our Meet Our Neighbors series, which really aims to shine a spotlight on organizations and places that sort of make Natick what it is today and have shaped Natick in the past, present, and into the future as well. And so if I do want to note that if you'd like to see any of our Meet Our Neighbors programs, of which there are now quite a few, over a dozen, featuring different organizations and places in Natick, they are all on our YouTube channel, which you can access from our website. So don't miss that. So without further ado, let me just welcome Denise, Ginger, and Jane Ellen, and we'll give them sort of a warm but silent Zoom round of applause. And I'd like to get started simply by asking them to introduce themselves by way of talking about sort of how they came to Natick and how they embraced their respective current roles in the community. And so perhaps we'll go popcorn style, and Ginger or Denise or Jane Ellen, would you like to start?
My husband and I came to Natick in 1993 with one little baby in tow. We did have a second, and we've been in the same little Cape Cod style house for 30 years and still love our neighborhood and love being a part of the community. I moved into my first studio in 1998 at 43 Main Street, sort of up above where Camellas and Five Crows is now. And that sort of launched me into the art community in Natick, which I've never looked back and never regretted. In 2002, I opened Five Crows Gallery and Handcrafted Gifts with 4 other female artists. We moved into 8 Court Street. Thank you to Denise Girardin for that. She had space that she offered to the store, which was wonderful. We were there for 11 very happy years. And in 2013, we moved our store to 41 Main Street. So I sort of went back to where my studio was, basically, just downstairs. And we've celebrated 21 years in business. I really started with the Natick community in 2002. When the store opened, was also the first Natick Artist Open Studios that we were all a part of. And I've been part of that event ever since. And that really was my first connection to the Natick arts community. Certainly Denise welcomed us all in, which was wonderful. In 2018, I did my first public art project with Denise. You can see Denise and I are tied together. We did the butterfly, which is on the corner of Court and Adams Street. It's really a wonderful piece because people stand in front of it and they take their picture and they put their arms up like they have butterfly wings. So that's really a wonderful piece. And then in 2020, I completed the Unconventional Garden, which is on a vent, Unconventional Garden, on a vent also on Adams Street. And I love that piece because it's decorated all with native Massachusetts flowers. And there's a guide on the pipe next to it. So people can look and see, oh, the morning glory is here, and, see all the different plants that are on that. And then in 2021, I'm taking all of Denise's thunder, we we started the Natick Free Little Art Gallery, and that was placed in front of the library. Thank you to Jane Ellen. And so that's sort of my Natick art story.
I'll piggyback on Ginger because my story is very, very similar to Ginger's. Moved to Natick from Chicago in 1987, thinking we were going to be here we looked at it as a kind of a 2-year foreign assignment and ended up obviously staying for all these years because we loved it so much, and just, by happenstance landed in Natick, and just couldn't be more delighted with how that happened and being here for so long. Again, like Ginger, got a studio in downtown Natick in 1999. Started with giving kids and adult classes, which kind of ignited my interest in working with groups of people. You begin when you work with groups, you begin to see the joy that they take in creating, whether they are artists or trying something for the first time or don't consider themselves artists. I noticed that they like being a part of something bigger than themselves or just learning new things, which I continued to do my own work, which involved making jewelry. And then I was a potter, and then I was a painter, and I did collage, and I'm a little ADD, so I'm all over the map. But really, doing the community art, public art is great. Public art, if you're looking for a definition of the difference, public art is more the artist creates for the public to enjoy. Community art is more of a practice of wanting to get as many people as you can involved in creating the final product so that they're invested in it and proud of it, and maybe have realized that they have skills that they didn't think they had. It's just been an incredible ride to be involved in so many big projects that have had hundreds and hundreds of people in Natick that have just become involved. And I can see the names on here. I mean, Fran Weiss has been with me since the Tunnel of Love. Catherine Duran has been a big player at the Free Little Art Gallery. It's just been really fun. And I could go into details about a lot of the projects, but I think a lot of people, I can see the names, they're very familiar with what we've been involved with. The Tunnel of Love, Love 01760, Peace, Love, Natick, kind of a theme there with the love, and What's in Your Heart. So it's just really, really enjoy the whole community part of it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks too for the, the clear sort of definition between community art versus public art. I think that's very helpful. And I think with that, Jane Ellen, we'll turn to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Nikki. So my name is Jane Ellen Newman. I go by Jane Ellen, and I'm a Southerner. I moved to New England back in 2008 without knowing a soul. And I was hooked by my now husband. And I've been here ever since. They're on the screen there. Yeah. Hi, George. Hi, Greg. And so we moved to Natick I had to write the date down, in 2014. And I had my son a year later, and so he's now a second grader at Memorial. And when I started working for the library in 2018, and my role as community relations coordinator is a lot of things, but as it relates to this conversation, when I started, they said, you just manage the art on the walls. There are 3 places, and you just make sure that there's always art hanging on the walls. And because my background is in technical theater and PR and marketing and fundraising, I was like, do I have to just keep it to the walls? Like, can I go other places? And then I learned that actually there was a history of lots of great artists coming in and bringing in sculpture and bringing in really fantastic 3D and 2D pieces and hanging them in unusual spots. And so, you know, the first like big thing, aside from inviting artists to bring their art inside the building, the first big public art project that we started here at the library was kind of born out of the pandemic, and that was our peace banners. And most people are familiar with those now, but at the time it was we were closed to the public, but we were still here in the building and really wanted to show that we were here. And so we created the lovely rainbow peace banners, and we didn't even know or think that that the sun would flow through them and create like this rainbow effect on the ramp on the backside. And so just like a really lovely side effect of you know, an unintentional side effect, and just made it even more wonderful and beautiful. And so we're now on our second set of peace banners. And from that, it's just sort of rolled into many other projects. Last year, we put up our Freedom Wall, which is up now if you haven't seen it. But it's encouraging people to exercise their constitutional right to read and read anything you like. And that piece was inspired by a piece by a project called the Before I Die Project by Candy Chang. And we credit her, but we take it in a little bit different place, encouraging people to write book titles of the books that they like to read. And we've done a few other really cool things, like the outdoor reading rooms that we had in 3 different locations this past summer. So that's kind of my journey with art. I'm more of a curator and instigator and admirer of art, and love this art community that we live in.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jane Ellen. You know, I have sort of questions prepared, but as you all were talking, what's coming to mind is, you know, you all have sort of your beginning points in Natick, but I wonder what each of you would say to, you know, when you came to Natick, was Natick already an arts community, or do you feel like there's been a shift, right? That we're sort of in a new moment of Natick arts, or do you feel like this seed has been there for a while? Like, what would you say about maybe sort of how and when Natick has become a place where, you know, there are lots of people bringing arts to the community and to public art, right? That distinction to Denise, as you pointed out, right? Do you have any sort of sense of
I think sort of both are true. I know that when I moved into the studio at 43 Main, the Greenberg family that owns the building was always very, very supportive of artists and rented basically all of their upstairs spaces to artists at incredibly reasonably priced, you know, places. But I do think that there was a huge shift. And I'm not sure, Denise, maybe you can more pinpoint, but when Natick Center became a cultural district, I feel that was the explosion point, that was the point where everything started happening. That's what I think. I mean, there's always sort of art around Natick, but I think the cultural district sort of made everybody really aware of it. I think that's maybe when that happened. Denise, do you feel differently?
No, I agree 100%. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is, Ginger said, you know, we were kind of some of the founding members of Natick Artists Open Studios in 2002, was it, Ginger?
Yeah. Yeah.
And from 2002 until 2022, you still get people that walk into the studio and say, I didn't know you were here. I didn't know there was this much art in downtown Natick. I didn't know that this happened. And it's because of Natick Center Cultural District becoming an entity and being able to help promote not only the Open Studios event, but all of the events that they do downtown, all of the stuff on the Common and Porch Fest, just, you know, I mean, there's just something all the time. It's literally skyrocketed, I think. And I think, you know, we do hear from Wellesley people that come through that kind of want to know how did it happen? You know, all of a sudden here you are, you know, you're a destination.
Yeah.
I also think that I think there have always been a few business owners that have sort of seen that in the future a little bit, which I find really interesting. People that are not at all artistic or, you know, don't have that in their background have sort of, they realize very early on the positive benefit of a creative economy. It you know, it distinguishes Natick from other towns. I think, you know, the Board of Selectmen have been on board, you know, since the beginning, which I think has been incredibly helpful. So you know, it's very interesting that in, you know, a town like Natick, there have been people with sort of been very open to the vision and sort of had the vision. It's interesting.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Jane Ellen, what about the view from the Morse?
You know, libraries, public libraries are all about access and free access. So, and are working toward more equitable access. You know, the point that I like when I talk to artists who haven't shown in a public library, or who might not be comfortable showing in a public library, because like people might touch my stuff and people might, you know, what I have to, what if something happens? And I said, well, this isn't the place for you. But, you know, if you think about, there are so many people who are not able to go to all of the beautiful art galleries and museums that are just 12 miles, 14 miles down the road, but it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of resources to get there. And why not, you know, why not bring it to a place where people are used to seeing and used to having access to information and education and enrichment. So that's sort of the point here at the Morse Institute Library, and art is to bring art to a same place, or a similar place, as all the other information and resources that people are used to getting in a public library.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a beautiful point about libraries and access, right? And I think, you know, sort of using that theme of access, I wanted to hear a little bit more about the community arts projects, right? Sort of people coming together to contribute or create art themselves. And I wondered if any of you could talk about what the experience of creating a community arts project is like. Is it more challenging than doing a public arts project, right? That you're sort of you know, inviting people in and hoping they step in to participate. Can you talk a little bit about just that process of creating community arts projects, which, you know, are so much about a different kind of access, right? That's really cool. So I'll leave that open to whoever wants to.
Well, I think, again, back to the difference between public and community. When you're working on a public art project, you're actually doing the art. You're creating the art piece. You're putting it out there for the public to see. When you're doing a community art project, I found in my experience that you become more of an administrator than an artist. So you're coordinating, you're adminning the whole process. So you kind of have to be able to start at the end and work backwards. You have to see what it is that you want the final piece of art to be, the installation to be, and how do I get there? How do I get there from here? Fortunately, Natick, and I give all the credit to Facebook, which I hate to do, but it allows you to reach so many people that want to be involved. and you're able to communicate, particularly during COVID, back to the Love 01760 project. The whole theme was apart but together, and it was strictly coordinated 100% entirely through Facebook. And people want to be a part, like I said, people want to be a part of a larger project and be able to say, I helped with that. Here's my piece. Here's what I did. And it's becomes a business process of, again, starting at the end, working back. How do I get from A to Z? It's very fun. You have to have incredible organization skills, I think. And Fran, you may be able to answer this. With the Tunnel of Love, we ended up with, I think, close to 1,000 hand stitched flowers, and probably 400 or 500 people participating. So you've got to kind of keep track of all that. And to me, that's fun. It's fun. It when you're done, you're done. But again, I go back to the joy factor. To see people walk through the tunnel and find their piece and say, I helped with this, or I sewed this, or on the Peace Love Natick in the alley, and they find their little brick that they painted, and I did that, and this is why dogs are important to me. And to me, that's why I do it, because that gives me a lot of joy to see people so happy to be involved in something with so many other people.
I in our outdoor reading rooms that we did this past summer, one of the artists, Deborah Wirtz, who created the piece called Empower, which was at the Connor Heffler Park, she kind of did a combination of she created the work, but what she did was she reached out to the community surrounding Connor Heffler Park and asked for their input. So her concept was Empower, and it was stacks of books, which were actually pieces of wood made to look like a stack of books, and they had titles written on the sides of the spines of the books, and those titles were from community members that was saying, tell us book titles or words of empowerment that you would like to see in this space that support the theme of the piece, which the whole project, which find your voice. So it was kind of a bit of a combination of looking toward the community and seeking input about what kind of thing do you want to see in this space? What words of empowerment do you want to see? But the artist still made it. And that was one of the pieces that this project really was seeking to fill. Was we have, as we've said, so many wonderful pieces of public art and community art in Natick Center, and but there are people in our community who may not come to Natick Center or get to Natick Center very often, and so bringing the art to other parts of our community, as especially areas where there might be some barriers to accessing the center, that was what that project was aiming toward, and that was a project that was a grant from the New England Foundation for the Arts. So it was their aim of trying to aid municipalities in helping to bring artists into the fold and art into the fold that went to the places in the community where it doesn't normally art is not normally found.
And I if I could just piggyback a little bit on what Denise was talking about, being a business owner in Natick and also an artist is just sort of an interesting place to be. And when Denise did during the pandemic, the Love 01760, and invited businesses to take part, they had really big hearts. Some of them created the hearts themselves. Some wanted artists to help them to do that, which, artists readily signed up. But I think that for all the businesses that I know that took part in that, they were really proud to display that heart, and it sort of made everybody feel that we were together, even though we weren't together and we hadn't been in person for so long. But having those businesses involved in that project, I think, was very meaningful in the time period. It was just, I think for business owners, it was very, very meaningful to be included. And I know for the police station and the fire station, when their hearts were delivered to them, they were so excited to be a part of it, to be included, to be able to display their heart on their front door it was really meaningful. It was really amazing to see the joy that brought to businesses. It was great.
That's wonderful to hear. And I think, one of my questions for you all is, Natick has had so much success in the realm of community arts and public arts. What have the challenges been? What are the challenges? It sounds like, and I wonder if the cultural district designation and that support, that foundation of support, perhaps, helps the center of town welcome arts and facilitates arts projects in a way. Are the barriers to community arts and public arts projects just gone? What are the challenges that you experience or that you are looking ahead to in Natick, or do you see opportunities? Any thoughts about that?
Well, I think, as Denise said, community art and public art, very different. When I did the unconventional garden, it was just me. I painted it. I just needed to find, the landlord. Baron Yeager was the landlord at the time. They were thrilled to have their ugly vent painted. So that was easy. That was great. I think, Denise, you can certainly speak to challenges, with the community art. I think are probably greater because you have so many more people and so many more moving parts in a community project than with a public art project.
That's true. Finding locations is a little difficult, and especially now that the beautiful bridge is gone. But I go back to what Ginger said earlier about businesses being able to see that having the arts in Natick Center is beneficial to businesses. And I agree with that to a point. Yes, a lot of them do, but a lot of them still cannot see that. And I'm not sure how that message gets across. It hasn't affected, I don't think it's affected anything that we've ever wanted to do in moving forward. But it's hard to understand from our side how you couldn't see how it helps the community as a whole.
Yeah, that's interesting, and such an important distinction between kind of the public art, as you were mentioning, Ginger, and these community art projects that are quite a lot more expansive and so many more moving parts than an artist directing as their own project. That's fascinating. And I wonder, Jane Ellen, what about from the context of a public library, right, which has other kinds of obligations and needs? What are the challenges of bringing community arts or public arts to that space?
I mean, when you're talking about art on municipal property, there are quite a lot of challenges. There are also a lot of pluses. But if we're talking about challenges, I think the one that really stands out to me, which was I learned with this recent outdoor reading room project. We as artists were granted a large sum of money to create an experiential piece of art. So art that people interact with. And with that comes some risk. And anytime you put either a permanent or a temporary piece of art in a space, especially if it's a municipal space, there's definitely that risk. And one of the barriers for artists is that risk. So being able to or having to purchase insurance, which is what these artists had to do. They had to purchase their own insurance on top of what the town's insurance provides. But that's a barrier which we were able to overcome because we granted them funds that that they could use for that purpose. We increased the amount of the grant, but that's not always the case for artists. So I think that's just a piece of learning moving forward for the town and for the library, and thinking about larger pieces that that it's a barrier, especially for an emerging artist.
That's a great point. And I think, I'm noting the time here. And so I do want to open it up to folks who've come to participate. If you would like to send a question directly into the chat, I'll be happy to ask it for you. I've got a couple coming in. But you're also welcome to raise your hand and ask your question live. So please feel welcome to share your questions. And I wanted to come back to, we have a question here about how is community arts financed? So I want to put that out there, and another question as well, but maybe I'll pause there. Does anybody want to talk about the sort of the financing side of community arts projects? I mean, Jane Ellen, you touched on it a bit, and there's that tricky component.
Yeah, I mean, ours, the most recent ones were grant funded, and Denise, I believe yours have been grant funded as well. Our town, I think it's the Economic Development Department, got a grant for all those wonderful Adirondack chairs that you see all around town, and they're just chairs, but then we have artists who come along and make them something special, right? And that was grant funded.
Yeah, so we've found that a combination of grants through the Natick Cultural Council, through the Natick Center Cultural District, through Mass Cultural Council, anywhere that you can apply for money, you do, and also straight out asking business owners to be supporters. They've been very receptive to that. So it is chasing the money, though, definitely.
Yeah, that's where you bring your administrative hat again, right? To finding those sources. Ginger, I don't know if you were, go ahead.
No, I don't, I just painted the vent. There was paint, that had been used for all different other projects. And so Athena keeps all that in the basement of the cultural district office. And I used that and bought some, and, I just wanted to do it. So it wasn't, it wasn't a hardship for me. It was something that was a labor of love for me.
That's a wonderful. So another question here, and Jane Ellen, I think you touched on this a little bit, but so much of the arts in Natick are concentrated in the center, and I think that there's a good reason for that, right? As in any community, that's the center of activity, and it's also the designation of the cultural district. But I wonder, are there arts areas beyond the center that you'd recommend people check out? That maybe we're not familiar with?
Well, I think the rail trail right now, right, Denise, has the Studio Without Walls. Is that Studio Without Walls? So there's art on the rail trail, which is really fun.
And it's up, gosh, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's up more closer to Home Depot than to the center. So I think if you park, I don't know, what, in one of the parking lots that you can access the trail from on the north side of it
I
and
think
get
it's
on.
I think it's the MathWorks parking lot right
Okay.
by where FedEx. I think that's a
Okay.
good one. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the Natick Mall. They because all of the businesses that kind of disappeared in the pandemic, they had a lot of open space, and there's art studios there. I don't remember what that's called, what its
No
official
zero
name is.
spaces. No
Oh.
zero spaces.
No zero space.
So like there's that, and then I've like the Natick Mall have been bringing in some really fun art that is not local, but is fun and attracts people. And like I like every time they have something new, I want to go see it. So that's just another one. They have something now, I believe.
And the Bacon Free Library. There's always
Yes.
the Bacon Free Library.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right. And so this conversation is sort of touches on another question we received, which is, how do you recommend people follow arts projects in Natick? Is there, sort of a repository of information about, when you come to Natick, you should go see, X, Y, and Z arts projects. So where would you, if you had a friend coming in from out of town, I mean, you would know all the places, so you're not a great example, but if someone who's less in the know wants to sort of get a reference for the town in general, what would you recommend people check out?
I would probably start at the Cultural District office or the Visitor Center, which is at 20 Main Street. I was in there today and there were brochures and things about, happenings around.
The new kiosk that's on
Sufa sign.
27 and 135, does that have a map on it of public
It
art?
does. I don't think it's a public art. No. Okay, there's the next project. We'll have to do a brochure or something about what to see when you're in Natick Center, because
Well, I'm pretty sure that on the Natick Center Cultural District site, I think that there might be either a list with addresses or a map with pinpoints on it.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, good to
That's a
know.
good question.
So we can all note that down, but it's challenging, right? Because it's generating new projects all the time. So you'd have to put the information somewhere where it could be easily updated, right?
And shamelessly, there's always stuff at the Morse Institute Library. There's always art.
True. Very true.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yes, there's a great open studio show right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so let me take a moment too to ask you all, what are you excited about? What's coming up next for each of you that is having you feel inspired about arts in Natick?
No.
Oh, it's coming up next. I have to think about that.
I don't know. I have a lot of ideas bouncing around, but I haven't landed on one yet for 2024.
Well,
Okay.
I'm excited about our annual Fiber Arts exhibit. So every November and December, the whole building we transform into a riot of color and warmth and softness. And this year we have 2 quilt guilds. We have an embroidery guild. We have local artist who, Toolkit Tailoring, who's making a period costume for Marianne Morse's time when she was alive, which I'm excited about. And also we have the Natick Labs, which has a much more complicated official title, but the Natick Labs textile department is bringing in a whole assortment of all the different uniforms and parachutes and cords and all the different things that their department does, along with videos of all the testing that they do. I think it's going to be really interesting and a fun addition to the fiber art exhibit this year.
That's wonderful. And Jane Ellen, can you give us the dates for that?
Sure. We're installing everything the first week of November. So by like November 6th, everything should be up, and it's up through the end of the year.
Wonderful. And I'll also add that there happens to be an exhibit in at the Morse, which
Yes, thank
there,
you.
some samplers, Marianne Morse's sampler, which she made as a child, along with 8 other samplers from the collections of the Natick Historical Society. So if you haven't seen that exhibit in the Morse room, right, just on the first floor as you walk in, it's a wonderful exhibit, and I think a testament to Jane Ellen's thinking outside the box about all the different, historical arts as well, right? That art can be created, but it can also be preserved. And it's incredible to have those artworks from, Natick's women and girls of quite some time ago. So don't miss that, everybody.
It's
Yeah.
part of the fiber art show too. Thank you, Nikki.
It's particularly exciting for me. I wanted to Natick Artists Open Studios. I have a question about that. Is that connected with the Natick Arts Association? Where does Natick Artists Open Studios come from? Can you talk a little bit about what that is? And I know it's coming up too. If is anybody involved in that?
So Natick Artists Open Studios will happen October 21st and 22nd
Okay.
each year. The Natick Artists Open Studios is always, since 2002, has been around and sort of not a formal organization. It's been an event that artists help with. And recently we just founded the Natick Art Association. So that is now the umbrella over Natick Artists Open Studios. The art organization also does art in the park. There are artists at the first farmers market every year. We do exhibits at the library. The library hosts some of the artists for open studios. So the Art Association, although it's been sort of loosely hanging around since 2002, is now formal. So we're excited about that.
That's wonderful.
Denise, anything to add?
No, but we, because it is formal now, we're looking for people that might not have known how to get involved with the arts in Natick, to join the Natick Art Association so that they can become aware of all the events that we host and the different things that we do. It will become the conduit for a lot of the things that happen in Natick. And like Ginger said, it's been lurking, but now it's formal, and there's a board which Ginger is on, and I think it's going to become more of an essence in town, and we'll probably end up having more events and more opportunities for more artists. And from any level, and people, we hear so often, well, I'm not really an artist, or I'm not a good artist, or I've never been in a show, or I wouldn't know how to do that. We all feel like that. We're just trying to do what we do and get it out there. Don't ever feel that because you don't have experience, you shouldn't be a part of it. You should be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Being a collaborative, it helps you. You bounce ideas off, you go to get-togethers, you meet other artists, and don't be intimidated, and don't be afraid, because we want new people, we want young people, we want just whatever you want to do, we want you to join us and be a part of it.
And you don't need to be an artist. You can be an art lover.
True. Yep.
Be an art appreciator and still be a part of the Natick Art Association.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Well, thank you. I have one last question, which is, here we are in 2023. The Natick Historical Society is taking a little snapshot of Natick and its arts community, its community arts and its public art. 100 years from now, I'd like to imagine that the Natick Historical Society might take on a similar program to think about arts. And I wonder, if they were looking back, what would you like them to say about arts in Natick in 2023?
Isn't the art along Route 9 gorgeous?
I'd like them to say there's a lot of public and community art to see. There's a lot of color and a lot of vibrancy and a lot of creativity all over, for access for everyone, because it's all outside. So everyone can enjoy it.
Ditto.
Yeah. Jane Ellen, you too? Yeah, she's
Yes.
yes. Well, I think vibrancy and access are sort of the words of the evening in thinking about arts and community arts. And so I want to thank all three of you for taking time out of your busy and productive schedules to chat with us a little bit about all that's been going on with arts in Natick, and offer, on behalf of all of us, a warm round of applause for your, not only your time tonight, but also your energy and enthusiasm for making Natick the wonderful community of arts and artists that it is. So many thanks.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And thanks to all of you for being here, and seeing thanks flowing into the chat as well. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy your evenings.
Yes, you
Thank
too.
you. Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.